Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now I wish to point something out to you. Something that Toriyama said in conversation one day with Eiichiro Oda. Yeah, the chap who made One Piece and all of that. That obscure manga. In this interview, they were asked who their favourite characters were in their respective worlds. Oda said Luffy, to be expected, but here, Toriyama said this. I believe mine would be Piccolo. He was the first character in my manga where I was like, he has a scary face, but he's so cool. It really is cliche when bad guys turn into good guys, but it just feels great drawing it. Wait, does Toriyama also state sometimes that he likes Goku when he's asked in other interviews? Well, that is somewhat true. Most of you probably already knew this quote too. Some of you also may know that Toriyama has a habit of changing his mind on occasion and claims that Goku is his favourite in other places. Maybe to try and keep to the script, as it were. Despite this, I feel like this conversation that Toriyama and Oda had, that felt like we got a genuine response there. We surely know that our favourite Big Green is his favourite character. I mean, come on. Namek, King Piccolo, Dragon Balls, all the biggest and most distinct things that make up the franchise, where it originally came from, was to do with Piccolo and his pappy. Maybe that's why, ever since he was introduced, he's never truly left, despite it feeling like that way sometimes. In every single saga, Piccolo's at least popped in to say hello. Now, before Superhero arrives and gives the Namekian the long-awaited shiny form, it's not the flashiest thing out there, but let's be honest, the power boost itself is enough to make us excited for what he can do in the future. Let's talk about his present situation. Because although similar to Gohan, he was kind of falling out of the loop, failing to keep up with the likes of Goku and Vegeta. Despite this, he's never truly called time. Despite the gulf in power to his former rival, Piccolo had just enough to be able to be consistently best of the rest. Strong enough to be up there with the elite, but yet never quite managing to outshine them, on the cusp of relevancy. 4th place. And that's quite interesting. We all know his backstory, so we'll very much skim through this part, but it's important as part of our overall discussion. Our Big Green was spat out by King Piccolo as an egg in his death roads in order to be a tool for revenge, originally bent on enacting his malicious will that was fostered by his father. And yet, it never fully manifested. Despite having a frightening demon as a parent, Piccolo Jr. was never as bad. He had a semblance of mercy, honour, from birth, and a distorted definition of respect. He starts off being the ultimate rival for Goku, at least in the original Dragon Ball. And already, that's a big difference between him and his dad, as King Piccolo held no respect toward Goku. He wanted to simply out of the picture for his selfish desires, Goku getting in his way. Not his boy though. KP had been KO'd. Now at the beginning of Z, he's still bent on world domination, fighting his opponent again and settling the score with him, yeah, but he quickly shifts away from that, over from Goku-centric to being a supporting character of Gohan's, which is a very welcome turn, as Vegeta kinda took his place going forward, being the rival of Goku. Piccolo now had something else to focus on and remained relevant, and Gohan's introduction and interactions with the Pickle meant that he would never be the same again. Now, his change wasn't complete yet, and one may argue that it's only after he fuses with Kami that he truly becomes whole again. But outside of a singular outburst, he really is a fully redeemed character post-Saiyan saga. Even when he was purely King Piccolo's son, he was a far less malicious person. Then on Namek, thanks to Nail and his enlightenment as to fusion and being a Namekian, he becomes a very formidable force and is technically, for a while, the second strongest Z fighter in the story. He even surpassed Vegeta for a brief moment, until the mini time skip between the end of Namek and when Trunks showed up. Cool! Piccolo had the silver medal for a moment. He then temporarily loses his status after Vegeta becomes a Super Saiyan, and throughout the path to gaining that power. But once again, he is able to leap over him when he fuses with Kami, getting that silver medal back. And then, this is when things start to get weird. This is where things start to get overly complicated too, and Piccolo's prominence begins to be tested, and he falters somewhat. And it's all to do with Saiyans. Monkey and Slug? Monkey wins, unfortunately. Now you see, it's not that Piccolo is weak, we're saying this. Don't think that even for a second, folks. He certainly is the most powerful non-Saiyan member of the Dragon Team, and will continue to be so long as he is actively involved in defending Earth. And remember, he can live for a very long time, and Namekians can too. He'll outlive all of them. He's in a whole other league to humans, and for sure is more powerful than the androids at the time of the Buu saga. Granted, he didn't get much of a chance to prove himself against Deborah, and was quite scared of Shin's power, which now in hindsight sounds very wrong if you remember Shin's original definition of what was strong. But we rarely think about the very real truth that the last combat-like thing he ever did within Dragon Ball Z was when he chopped a potato in half. Piccolo had in some way before then tanked certain villains of the previous sagas like Frieza, Cell, or Babidi, allowed to decimate misfit minions, but never allowed to have a massive victory of his own which stuck. Fully ended the villain, or at least provided the final assist. Second form Frieza? Nice work. Imperfect Cell? Good stuff. Buu's Master? Not bad. But the full article? Leave that to Goku and Vegeta. Or their kids. Well, we don't count that situation with Raditz, as realistically, there were no winners in that altercation. Piccolo only won because Goku did all the heavy lifting and the full Nelson. After that, Piccolo was purely offering mentorships and some comedy relief with Gotenks. And then, he never fought in Z again. That Babidi thing was the last time he actively fought in the timeline, and on the front line. We do remember him participating in the saga, always being around and providing assistance in some capacity, especially with Goku and Fusion, because without his help, Fusion wouldn't have worked as well as it had done. But he only had 3 instances that resembled combat in the Buu saga. But unlike many characters, who would have normally faded into obscurity when not being relevant as much, Piccolo hung around. He never disappeared. Possibly having something to do with the fact that the son of the main character likes you. But then, Videl though liked the son of the main character. Oh, my head hurts. At least on the Z Super Border movies, he was allowed to do something. But the Beerus fight was mostly everyone against the Cap. And the Resurrection F moment, the Thousand Soldier Battle, that was a poor rendition of that classic hit, Gohan's and Piccolo's greatest hits. And he died for a moment there. We often forget that. It was nowhere near as impactful as the first time that he did that. Like that shot we just saw Piccolo slumping over and going, "Yeah, that really smarts." Not like the first time, when he looked like he was literally about to lose his organs. Not to mention the, hashing black-white thing. That's always epic. Then there was his fight against Frost in the Universe 6 tournament. Cool, but he's not given the victory. But to be fair, he didn't choose to pursue it. What if Piccolo kept fighting? Possible. If he had, he probably would have won. But it would have been a proper fight. Not a one-punch jobby like the Prince showed us in the original. But yeah, Piccolo is in that we know you're trying buddy state right now. Also, his role in the story is nowadays more tied and defined by Gohan and his family, as we clearly see that he is basically considered to be very close to them and a part of said family. People often joke about the father thing, but in reality, if Dragon Ball had godparents, we know who would be Gohan's godfather. And we also know that his fondness for Goku's son moves over by default towards his granddaughter. Something that will get carried over into the superhero movie, obviously. That is something we already know. He's basically training Pan in the wilderness, but with consent this time. Now, he hardly does anything during the Goku Black saga, but we give him a pass since there's limited space on the time machine and we don't count the whole evil containment wave Martha thing, which literally goes nowhere. But at least there's lasting recorded material of Piccolo helping within recorded material. Well, how meta. In the Tournament of Power, he was the 4th to go, just after the humans, since the androids now may be slightly more powerful than he is at that time. But I am still very sore within the manner he got forced out of that contest, like, he had stretchy arms and he didn't even use them to try and stay in the ring. What? Episode 119 still to this day leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Not helped by the fact that episode 118, where Piccolo and Gohan worked wonders together, that was so good. Go check out my original discussion about that and why. It is hard to tell though, regarding the Pickle's power to the droids, but as we know, 17 is able to go toe-to-toe with Super Saiyan Blue, so Piccolo has fallen down the pecking order a little bit. But yeah, Piccolo's exit from the tourney was just embarrassing from a writing perspective. Now we could go into the details about the manga and how he had a decent role in the Moro saga against the Ram Man's goons, particularly 7-3. and for some reason had nothing to do with the Namekian's savior. But let's keep to the animated timeline this time for the purposes of clarity and overall understanding. Not everybody watching this video has read the manga. Broly had him return to a mentorship role for Goku and Vegeta, once again related to fusion. And that's all we had from him in it. It was more than Gohan though, to be fair. Now, why am I saying any of this? Well, you see, Piccolo is in a very particular situation at this time as a character. While the likes of Vegeta and Gohan are/were rooted to repeating the same story beats, with Vegeta getting some much needed nuance lately in the manga, Piccolo's biggest problem is that he finished his character arc a long time ago. A really long time ago. In essence, the Pickle's time as an important character who evolved and changed after the Cell Saga sort of ended there. True, he fused with Nail and Kami, finally putting to rest the old feud between them, but to be quite honest, that moment wasn't all about Piccolo. Not really. I wish to point out the fact that this was a bigger thing for Kami than it was for Piccolo. Kami's decision to give up his physical form and put to bed a centuries-long dispute and separation from his evil half was a big gamble and a very major sea change for the course of the show. This being that we saw in the original, guiding Goku, just going? I could understand why his genie attendant was so sad about it. It was a big deal. But back to Piccolo. Sure, he had an outburst before he fused with Kami, but he was already our friendly, grumpy slug man even before combining bodies. And not much has changed since then. Like at all. This doesn't take anything away from the character, but Piccolo is in that interesting and bizarre place where he isn't allowed to grow anymore. Not allowed to overshadow other characters that are supposedly getting their spotlight now. Saiyans and lately androids, for example. But at the same time, we never got a really good explanation as to why on Hiffle he's not getting any more gains. Like, how come he hasn't had a power-up or breakthrough recently? Heck, even Krillin had one in episode 76! But sadly that didn't go anywhere. But at least we saw it! Okay, so is Piccolo done now? Wait, not so fast. Because of this predicament, he's unable to fade into obscurity. Because he's Piccolo. He's iconic. He's big green. And to be honest, he is given stuff to do. It's just not the argy-bargy parts. Until Superhero comes along, obviously. It didn't seem like it was stuff related to him specifically, to move him in any meaningful direction. The anime did a good job in 2 scenes though, where we saw Piccolo really excel. Him welcoming 17 into the team, and then this little gem. You know, he's still in the mix, able to give Goku and Vegeta helpful advice when dealing with Broly, but he is nowadays more of an accessory for other characters instead of his own. I mean, in Super he still is connected to Gohan's family, and we love his relationship with them, by the way, don't get us wrong. But that in itself is curious, you know? How he has become a character that serves other characters. A character with 4 egos without an ego. It's almost poetic in a way. So that's why Superhero is so important for him. It would be nice to see what he wants from life now. To see that relationship with Gohan and Pan from his point of view, his perspective. Piccolo is such a fascinating character, because most redeemed characters in the series were mostly jerks. But he was the original, truly, but not completely, evil character who redeemed himself. And he was following in his father's footsteps to boot, well aware of his plans and wants and needs. Now what is somewhat funny and tragic about this is that we don't really know what he wants, and he is a potentially long-living creature. It still doesn't feel like he wants to get that much stronger though. Does he want to protect Gohan's family instead, by any chance? What will he do? He's going to outlive them all. Will he become the protector of that family for generations? Like some kind of family heirloom? It's like he has that need to rely on someone else's dreams. Now of course, altruism isn't bad, but it almost seems like he hasn't fully healed after abandoning his father's plans. Not really. It's really fascinating. Characters in Dragon Ball either fade away or become stuck in a rut, and Piccolo is neither of those things. It's like he's sort of in limbo, in stasis, I guess, at the point when the story would allow him to get strong again, because there was nothing, unlike humans, preventing him from getting a power or a boost. I guess he's just had to wait his turn. Will that new form be stronger than the androids? Well, probably, right? He didn't seem that far off of them anywhere in the Tournament of Power without a power. And if we add this new seemingly ultimate form on top of that, surely he can at least give 17 a run for his money. Again, we opened up this discussion saying that it felt weird that one of Toriyama's apparent favourite characters, his actual favourite in fact, just is, not going anywhere. Not really fully falling down, but not climbing back up either. I do wonder how much he'll be allowed to do in Superhero, and what the creative team will decide to do with him next. Because if we can't have nice things for the humans, just give our big green some new goals please, Triple T. But what do you guys think? How would you like Piccolo's story to be expanded? Would you prefer something more definitive like his GT resolution, or something entirely different? Him having a child, even though he is a young Namekian still? A new journey towards self-discovery, maybe to Universe 6? Well, share your ideas with us, and as always, we'll see you again in the next video. Catch you later!